69.
When was the last time you were curious about something enough to be willing to change your mind? Or I say change your mind, but at least be willing to change your mind. We need to practice that more, and that's a big deal.
Yeah. I think, the more and more people who were comfortable about expressing their ideas, even if they're not confident about their position and they don't have it all, worked out or, put together or whatnot. If they felt safe enough, if they knew they were being listened to, I think it just make a huge difference in, the general discord. But, it's real easy to default to just like, I'm going to defend my position and you're going to defend
or
yours.
leave, or just leave in anger.
It goes nowhere. It just simply goes nowhere. And one of the things that I really admire about your whole movement, can we call it a movement?
No, absolutely. I call it a movement. Hell yeah. Call it a movement every second you want.
Is just like driving home this notion of being curious, being genuinely curious about things.
All right. Good morning. Good morning to you all. How you doing today? Let me just start here today, okay? By the way, check out the banner. Let's get some good conversations going today. Today's going to be a special one because this one didn't start today. This started with a conversation, not even on camera. Producer Barbie and I were talking right before a show way back in November of 2024, and it wasn't about politics. It wasn't about AI. It was about something much simpler than those two subjects. It was about people checking out. And we asked a question that stuck with me. Why are people stepping away from the very conversations that shape their lives? And that's where this idea came from. The watch party, not as entertainment, not as content, but as a way to bring people back into the room, back into thinking together. Now, that same day, Baron Mrkva comes onto the show, and what started as a conversation about elections, about AI and systems, turned into something else because Baron and I, we don't always agree. And that's exactly why this works. Think about that. See, Baron looks at the world through systems, experimentation, curiosity. I look at it through accountability, curiosity, and responsibility, and this belief that at some point people have to step back in. So here's where the tension sits tonight. Is the system broken, or are we just not participating in it? Is AI going to empower people or quietly centralize control? Is division being driven, or is it just what happens when nobody is actually sitting down and talking anymore? Here's the truth. You don't grow from agreement. You grow from engagement. Okay? And that's what this show is. That's what this watch party idea is becoming. That's what this entire platform, Insights and Straight Talk, is building towards. Because this is bigger than politics. This is bigger than AI. It's about something we've been losing. The ability to think together. So tonight, don't just watch this. Be part of it. Push back. Ask questions. You know what? Disagree if you need to, please. Because somewhere in that tension, that's where the real answers start to show up. So, what do you say? Baron, let's get into this.
Hey,
how you doing, brother?
Rod.
How are you, my friend?
Very, very good. You're looking chipper this morning.
I am. I'm feeling a little chipper this morning, and I actually got to bed late last night. I have an interesting project going on, but I slept like a baby, man. I slept so good. So I want to do something with you here. I know usually at this point in time we do like a an inflection point. What puts you on the journey that puts you on the path to us today? That kind of, some where I say some people go back to birth. You don't necessarily have to do that, but I want to do something a little different because we've flirted around. You've been on the show a number of times now, and that's awesome. It's always fun to do with it. But we flirted around with some of the things that you do, that you're involved in, how you create and make your livelihood out there in Southern California. Why don't we talk about that? Why don't we talk about what your current? You've got a project going on right now that's pretty interesting. As a matter of fact, I know you brought a couple of clips with you. We're going to show those here in a second. Why don't you set those up? And let's talk about that, and then let's get into some of these things that you and I talk about pretty regularly. I mean, we talk more off the show than we do on the show, obviously. And some of your crazy ideas, I've actually started to get irritated at myself because I'm starting to believe in a couple of them, and that scares me a little bit. But that's something. Why don't you go ahead and set yourself up here, and we'll pull on those clips when you talk.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah, I'm a freelance video producer in Southern California, and what I most want to do in video producing, I do mostly corporate and marketing style videos, and try to do my own content, that kind of thing. But what I really want to do is tell stories. So I did one short film a few years ago and just absolutely fell in love with every aspect of it. Writing, directing, filming, editing, the whole shebang. So I currently have a project. I did three episodes. It's a web series. It's kind of science fiction.
It's finding an alien camera, where they know when to call action and when to cut.
Seeing light with a cinematic flair. Every shot is like truth or dare. Telling stories is oh so moving. We gotta shout. Let's make a movie.
My bad. I meant to set that up. I didn't know it would automatically play right in the middle of your sentence there. I was going to set it up, and then when you finish the sentence, I was going to be clever and play it. Well, that didn't work out so well. But go ahead with what you were saying. That was the trailer. Go ahead.
No, you condensed the whole setup there. Yeah. So it's a I call it a cross. I call this series a cross between Gilligan's Island and the X-Files. So it's got really silly, dumb humor in it, but there's actually a really I think a very, very interesting science fiction mystery at the heart of the series. So we've produced 3 episodes. I self-produced those, and now we're trying to crowdfund to get the remaining 9 episodes.
What does crowdfund mean?
Crowdfunding?
Yeah, what is that? Is that like what I talk about in the Ko-fi?
Yeah,
What is crowdfunding?
It's more of platforms like Kickstarter, Indiegogo. The platform I'm using is called Seed and Spark, and these platforms are designed to help people. In the case of Seed and Spark, it's kind of catered to filmmakers. Huh. So we just launched our campaign, so that's open right now. And if we get funded, then I'm going to produce the remaining episodes. And we're going to have our premiere on Halloween.
Oh, wow. Okay. So right now you're in the process of working on crowdfunding with one of these platforms that you just discussed. I'd like to hear more about that because as you know, all people in the creative industries, you need support, and that's not just by people showing up. By the way, we have about 50 people that jumped on early here, so welcome, and please subscribe and do crowdfunding for Baron here. Go on with what you were saying, Baron.
Well, so what I've noticed in getting more into the storytelling, the narrative part of making videos is the incredible amount of talent that's just in local areas. We're not Hollywood. We're in the Inland Empire. So we're not considered.
You're down closer to Temecula. Well, you're not even Temecula.
I'm in the high desert.
High desert, yeah.
Yeah, and so there's not the buzz, there's not the resources, but there is a really very tight knit community of filmmakers that I'm discovering as I get more into this, and I've never met a larger group of passionate just fun, excited people, in my life. I mean, everybody's dedicated to telling a good story, first and foremost. And then everybody else has their different roles. The actors obviously are into their thing, the cinematographers, writers, directors. It's astounding to me how much talent there is, just in my backyard. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's great that the world is kind of evolving. We've talked about this in the past. COVID obviously was a terrible thing, but some good stuff came out of it. Meaning that things like this platform. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this. We wouldn't have meetings over the internet, the different meeting platforms that are out there. We wouldn't have any of that. That technology was around, but it wasn't really performed because nobody really bought into it. And then when COVID hit, you were forced to. You couldn't go visit people, and you couldn't have face-to-face meetings at that point in time. So then digital meetings, the Zoom kind of platforms really started to take off. And what I mean by that is, now there's more, I think, exposure to folks like independent medias that want to be able to find that talent, or that talent that's out there, be able to have more access, more lanes to be able to be found. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the technology was around, but yeah, COVID it definitely accelerated it. Yeah, I actually made the first short film that I did. That was right at the tail end of COVID. So we had to have actors, sign releases that if you die on set, don't come after me. So no, that was a real thing, and I'm not like in the film industry. I don't have any Hollywood connections, none of that. I have no interest in becoming a Hollywood filmmaker. I just want to be able to do, tell the stories I want to tell. And they don't need, gigantic budgets to still be effective.
Absolutely.
The production values might not be like stellar, but you can still tell a very engaging story with surprisingly little money, especially compared to Hollywood productions.
Oh, geez, yeah, absolutely. So speaking of telling stories, I've seen a couple of what was that one that you sent me about a week and a half ago? That was how different takes on the way to look at things. So one that comes to mind right away is, as we get older, our body. What's the name of that series?
The name of the series is Fundamentals.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Now what we're talking about today, that trailer, I was trying to be really clever. Speaking of production values, I was trying to be clever and I missed the mark. You as the director would slap me on that one. But
Cut.
yeah, exactly. Cut. Throw that one on the ground. Let's take two. Of this one that we're going to show now. Set up the scene. So we're going to see a scene from the first episode of this 9-part series that you're doing. Oh, Damien wants to say hi. Hey, Damien, how you doing? Good to have you here. Be sure to subscribe. You're perfect timing because we're about ready to set. Oh, we got 300 people on. We're about ready to set up the scene. Why don't you set up the scene? And what'd you say? It's about a minute and a half, a couple minutes long, something like that.
Yeah, it's just a little over a minute. It's part of a scene. Each episode, this is considered a micro series where every episode is only about 5 minutes long. So this is just a small part of actually the third episode, but it gives you a sense of the plot. I don't think it doesn't spoil too much because it's 10 minutes in and this is this is what you're going to see. So that's what I love about the micro series is you got to have things rolling right along. You don't have these big elaborate setups to things. You just got to keep pushing the story along. So this is the third episode.
Okay, this is the third episode. Is there anything you want to set up on? By the way, there's some people that are really interested in our AI versus politics discussion. So we'll get in. Hang on, guys. We'll get into that in a second. But so is there anything you want to set up for this scene?
Yeah, if the trailer,
besides what you said,
sure. Yeah, the trailer blows by so fast, but the general story is there's some backyard filmmakers and they're just trying to make their own little tiny micro budget movies, and they discover an alien camera. So in this scene, this is the first time they're experimenting with this. They're not sure what's going to happen, but they find out.
All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and bring this baby on.
Okay. I think we're rolling.
Okay, gang, here goes. And action.
I never may believe these antique fables nor these fairy toys. Lovers and madmen have such seething brains, such shaping fantasies that apprehend more than cool reason ever comprehends. How is this possible?
Is this a projection? It's like a VR without the headset.
It doesn't just take the perfect shot, it creates the perfect shot.
Dudes, think of what we could film with this.
Can we create any stage we want?
Let me just stop and see what happens.
Ah, shoot. Did I? Oh, all right. I am not going to be your camera or production guy ever, I assume. Any chance I ever had at that with you, I think I just blew out the window there. So that was very, very good. I love that. So can you tell us, do you continue with that camera throughout the rest of the?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, after this third episode, things really ramp up. You get introduced to the antagonist in the film, this tech trillionaire who also is very interested in what the Max Cam is, what it's referred to as, this alien camera. And he wants it because he's an AI, tech trillionaire, and he wants to figure this thing out too. So
Ooh.
that's kind of the one of the subplots. But yeah, they go to some pretty crazy places, and it actually gets a little philosophical, here and there about what's the whole idea is that using collective imagination. That's how they get the camera to work. Nobody else can figure it out, but because they have a collective imagination, it enables the camera to basically transport them wherever, whatever time, whatever place.
And it's working off of what their imagination collectively is working towards in the movie or in the scene, in the film.
Yeah, it's kind of like wireless AI in a sense, you know?
That's very cool. That is very cool. Hey, speaking of that, why don't you read that right there, what Damien says.
Great live discussion. AI and politics together is a wild topic. Oh, you said it, Damien. You said it, brother. Yeah.
We got 500 people on now, so let's give them a show today. And as you can tell, the questions are coming in big time. But and so where can we get and I'll post your website here. Let's make a moviegang.com. That's where they're going to want to go, correct? To be able to
they can see the first 3 episodes, and if they like it, there's a button right on the site to if you want to go see the crowdfunding page and support that.
Hold on, let me try something. Let's see if I can make up for my terrible job so far.
What are you doing, Rod?
Hold on.
What are you doing?
I'll show you. I'll show you. Hold on. Let me pull this over here. Let me go to camera 4. I'm just playing around now. Can you see that?
Yep.
All right. So that's your website, correct?
Correct.
And these are the episodes here.
Yeah, the first episode's on the homepage, and then you scroll down, you can see episode 2 and 3.
There you go. And then show me the pitch video, meaning that's where you're getting some of that funding from off that website. Is that part of that
crowdfunding page? Correct. Yeah.
And then that's the part of this. No, that's a different scene by the way, that dude's a pretty good actor. You said the way he pulled that scene off, that was really well done.
Yeah.
He's a really good actor.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
what's his name?
Pierre Vander Westhuizen.
Oh, wow. You and your friends and your name, because say your name out loud. You can do it better than I do.
Baron von Mrkva.
Okay. So how did you meet this guy? This other name that I'm not going to say.
When I did the short film, I had
the one when COVID, at the end of COVID, that one you're talking about?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was like a 20 minute short film. It was kind of a sci-fi tinged mystery, actually romance kind of a theme. But the connection that I made on there, I helped out on a Star Trek fan film, and I was behind the camera for one day's shoot, and he played a Vulcan, and I remembered him from that. He just kind of stuck in my mind. So when I was thinking of the casting for Le Mam Gang, he was immediately, I want that guy is going to play the actor, right?
What is his role?
He's part,
he's got amazing eyes, or that's his natural color eyes, right? He's not wearing any.
I think he actually, it's a stage thing. I think he uses eyeliner, just a very little bit of eyeliner.
And it
just kind of makes his eyes pop. Yeah. Wow. I guess that's a stage thing.
That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. All right. So that's where they can find the information. Is there anything else and we'll I'm sure we'll pop back into it. Somebody may bring something up that'll give us the Damien says thank you. Boy, he's active today. I think he's gonna be our #1 fan today. He's already got 4 comments up. Wow. Yeah. So what do you want to start off with today? And like I said, we'll come back to this, but what do you want to start what's on your mind today? What do you want to chat about? What the fuck are you doing here?
What do you got to say, and why do you want to say it? Well,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Sam, that's it.
Well, yeah, I thought that there were like two things we could talk about, and we could talk about, solutions to, overall problems, in this country, having to do with politics, obviously.
You mean having to do with the left? That's all the problem.
Oh yeah, lefties like me, yeah, we are totally the problem.
No, not like you, not lefties like you, other lefties, the ones with green hair and purple hair and I wonder, do you know what that's for? Do you know why people do that? Like grown women.
It's just like people getting a ring in their nose or a tattoo. It's just a form of expression. I've never had zero interest in ever getting a tattoo.
Yeah, me neither.
But there are people who.
My dad had a badass one. He was in the Marine, and he had a sword with a snake curled around it on his forearm.
There you go. And
it was really awesome when he was younger. As he got older, that you know what happens when we get older and our skin.
The snake started losing its scales, huh?
Yeah, something like that. There was a mermaid, and she didn't look so hot after a while, and that permanently, because he was my dad, so he's older than I. So as I got older, I saw him getting older, and I saw his tattoo getting older, and I'm like, oh my God, if I had a tattoo when I was younger, I can imagine whatever it looked like now. And especially other people when their skin, it's just not a pretty sight. So anyway,
so I was interested in two major topics, one having to do with the.
Hey, do you have a hard stop, by the way? Sorry. Do you have a hard stop today?
No, so not a hard stop.
It's 9 o'clock your time.
Yeah. I mean, 2 hours I would start needing to, get back to some things. But if we need to go 2 hours, I'm here.
I think we're fairly safe. The reason I ask is we have almost 600 people on, so I have a feeling there's going to be a number of more questions that come in. But I keep blocking you from getting to the two things that you wanted to talk about. I know, and it's your fault that I do this because I'm on the right. I lean more right, and you lean more left. So you're always going to be wrong, no matter what. Okay. So what are the two things you want to get to? And please save me and make this a little more professional.
The two things, and we've touched on them before. One, the whole election process, right?
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. And the other thing addresses the income inequality.
Meaning the very, very wealthy and everybody else.
Yeah. Coming up with a doable, equitable, fair way to make sure
distribute wealth,
to make sure that there's resources for all, so that the entire country can benefit. Now, some people immediately repel and say, tax the rich or redistribution, which is true. But, I think the case can be made that it would benefit even the companies that would be paying more in tax. And anyway, I'm talking about abolishing income taxes. So we could talk about those two areas. Election system and abolishing the IRS.
All right. So both of those things are awesome. And you've given the part that cringes one half of the nation, and then you come back and you back that comment up with a pretty damn good idea. And that's what's pissing me off about you, because I want to disagree with you, and you're fucking making too much sense these days. So knock it off, would you? You're screwing up the show. No, I'm kidding. So let's get into this. So let's start, and there's going to be a lot of stuff Well, let's do this. Let's do this because you just talked about elections. I'm gonna give Damien his last comment here. He nailed these out coming right out of the gate. I don't even think he was listening to my monologue. He was listening. He was throwing these things out here right out of the gate. So let's start here because let's start with the elections and we'll zone off of this. But I think this is an interesting question that Damien poses here. And that question, God, we've already been going 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Just like that. Do you think AI will eventually influence elections directly? And I'm going to say, and how? I want you to go at this, and then then we'll start a conversation. I want you to come out of the gate. So, do you think AI will eventually influence elections directly? And then I'll put and how. If so, how?
Yeah. I think they're influencing elections now, not eventually.
Okay, how?
What I'm hoping will happen eventually is there will just be more discernment on the public's part to distinguish things that are sometimes clearly AI generated, because in the creative field, there's been a lot of backlash about things that are AI generated. There's certainly
both in movies and in music.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, it goes. Yeah, it covers the spectrum of everything. So obviously, there's a high risk in AI influencing elections by having people say things they never said, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I'm hoping that the public at large will get more and more discerning about such things, and people watching whenever they spot it, if they know it's a fake, they post it immediately. That is starting to happen now. So I'm hoping that continues to the point that those kinds of that kind of deception gets called out immediately.
Well, let's split this in two. I think what he's getting at is AI actually entering into and creating, votes that are, the things that we are concerned about today. Do you think AI would ever get into that part?
I don't think
directly so. Influencing it.
Yeah, no.
Okay. I can agree with that, especially like in Oklahoma here. So as you know, I'm doing a lot of election stuff right now. I'm talking to senators and governors and state officials and county officials and so forth as the elections are coming up. So obviously being here in Oklahoma, I'm learning about different things, and every state has their own unique way that they handle election day, the voting booths and all that stuff. We've all heard all about those over the last several administrations. Yeah, because there's those accusations are out there all the time. But in Oklahoma, at least here in Mangum, it's the county seat. So all of Greer County kind of runs through here. And what they do is they actually have their own server that does all the data. And then once that election is completed, the polls are closed or whatever the right terminology is. Then they pull the hard drive out of that, and then it goes into a server that directly connects to the state election. So being able to interfere, and hack into, because they're not online, they're not connected via web as some of the other ones are. That concern, obviously, whether it's justified or not, is out. So I thought that was an interesting thing. But as far as what you're talking about, which is actually, like you said, actually happening. And I say that because 3 weeks ago or so, the Iran war that's going on, or the conflict, or whatever right word you want to use for what we're doing. I saw a video, and it looked so real. It was this video of a Japan. No, it wasn't Japan. It was Chinese. A Chinese warship was coming through the Strait of Hormuz. Am I saying that right? Hormuz? Hormuz? How do you say it? Say it.
Hormuz. Yeah, you said it right.
Hormuz. Okay, Hormuz. And it was in that video, the Chinese ship launched a missile at a U.S. ship and sunk it. And when I first saw it, I'm thinking, holy fuck, that's the whole world will change it. And now we're talking about World War III, if that really did happen. And I never heard anything about it on any other thing. So obviously it was a fake. And it looked a little off. It's weird. You know, AI's gotten really, really, really good. But you have this, don't you? Whenever you see something that's AI, it's like there's something off about it. You can't tell, but it feels. Do you ever get that reaction when you see it?
Yeah. Well, and again, this is what I'm hoping people get more. There's
a danger in that though.
To it because there's obviously good reason to be concerned about it being misused. But when you really break it down, the thing that you see and the things that I see on my feed all the time, it's so easy to disprove. It's real simple. So the only people who really glom onto it and believe it for a while until they can, be shown that, hey, that's not real, are people who want to believe it anyway. And that's no different than it is now. Right? People put out ads and this guy said this, back, 20 years ago when he was in college or something. And it's like, okay. Yeah. So to me, it's that aspect. If people take more responsibility about the information that they're absorbing and be just a little more discerning. And if they see something that, if your reaction when you see some of this stuff is like, I knew that was true, then that's the time you better check your sources.
Yeah.
And that goes either side.
You know what they say? They say now, and I want to get back into that, but they say now that if your sources that you're getting your information from are constantly saying words like smashes the CNN host or obliterates or demolishes or embarrasses, if they're constantly saying that, then that's another time you really got to check your news sources, because you're now in that algorithm whirlwind where everything that you've watched, and that's what I hate. It's so frustrating about today is I want to see everything, but I do lean certain directions, as you know, just like you lean certain directions, just like we all lean our own certain directions because of the influences we've grown up with that shaped our lives and our views so I get interested in certain things and it keeps feeding you those same things. And to the point where I recognize it now, and it's crazy how fast it reacts. Like if you stop liking something for 3 or 4 or 10 scrolls, all of a sudden that kind of information goes away and something else comes in. I mean, it's like somebody is standing next to the channel that you're talking to. It's almost like it's in real time adjusting whatever so you'll keep scrolling, and it does it for that purpose. But what's happening now is we're getting more and more and more divided because we don't have this kind of back and forth ever anymore. People just check out. They like to see what they like to see, and they don't want to see what they disagree with. That's a shame.
Yeah, that's what I think ultimately, and let's talk about this election reform idea, real quick here. But if people were just, again, more responsible about the information that they were taking in. I mean, if you're doing it for entertainment, it's like, yeah, I like watching that guy on the left get his butt kicked, on Fox or whatever. If you just enjoy that as entertainment value, I mean, fine, right? No big deal.
But put it in context.
Just yeah, exactly. Yeah. Keep it in context and don't let it stop you from actually being curious about why does half the country disagree with me.
Yeah. That's the question that isn't asked,
right,
to themselves. That what you're talking about now also concerns not the election part. We'll do that right next. But just to finish off this point, boy, I'll tell you what, we're going to be here forever if we take 15 minutes to answer one question. I'm in no hurry. But by the way, we've got we're coming up on 1,000 people on the show right now in the audience. So please subscribe. Baron, give me your website. We'll post it but give me your website. You were just talking about on the movie.
Yeah, it's in the chat. It's letsmakeamoviegang.com.
And for those that didn't see it in the very beginning, go back, rewatch the show. Don't stop now. Keep watching, but go back, start one of those watch parties, and you'll see a couple of scenes from the series that Baron's putting together right now. It's pretty fascinating. And then the other one that he has, which I really like, because I've already seen it. That was the first time I saw that movie scene. But what was the other one that you talk about?
It's a series I do occasionally. It's called Fundamentals, and it's just me ranting about different aspects of life and whatnot. But I get into like what is our purpose in life, things like that. It's snarky philosophy is how I would describe it.
Yes, and trust me, folks, it is exactly snarky. There's a lot of snark in it. It's very, very cleverly done. Far above his own intelligence, trust me on that one. So let's get into the election discussions. We'll get back into some of these questions here, but let's get into what your philosophy on elections. When you first said it, I was like, okay,
yeah,
go on. But then as you explained it more, because I was curious, right? That whole curiosity, and then be willing to think about it enough to possibly change my mind about that particular subject. I admitted it to you. There's some solid stuff in that. What I didn't know when you first mentioned 45 minutes, it's crazy. When you first mentioned it, like I said, I was, but as you're going and you're explaining it, go ahead and introduce this topic and let's get into it a little bit. Let me see if I can poke any holes that I haven't thought of yet.
Oh yeah, sure. And it's not my idea.
That's what I was going to say. When you first brought it up, that was the first time I ever heard about it. But you said it's been around for a long time. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's the
idea.
It amazes me that this isn't talked about more often as a.
Me too.
I used to think, and I still do. I still do think, but I've thought for a long time that it's like there. The simple way to say it is we have got to get the money out of the election system, the profit making aspect of elections.
What are the dollars spent on the two campaigns this last election?
Yeah, I think
how much?
$1 billion a piece, right? Something on that order.
Some say that Kamala spent $2 billion.
Yeah, and what are we talking about? Like
$2 billion.
20 years ago, maybe not even that long ago, spending a couple of $100 million was considered, oh my God, that's so much money, and it just like it went up quickly. So that's the simple.
I think the Bushes. One of the Bushes. That was the that was the moment when it hit like $100 million. People were.
Yeah, what accelerated it? What accelerated it? And this is not just some left-leaning talking point, but the Citizens United decision by the Supreme Court, where all these super PACs after that started cropping up, and the money became more and more basically unlimited. When it was decided that this notion that you would be hampering people's free speech if you denied them being able to raise money for their campaigns, to me, it just doesn't entirely add up, because the end result is exactly what has happened, and it's like more and more and more and more money, just to my mind, mostly just wasted. Just completely wasted, one, and two, it discourages people who ought to be running in areas of leadership, because if this, everybody knows this. If you're going to run for any federal office, you have to be rich or no rich people. Period. Full stop. Occasionally you'll get, some people that, pop up here and there and get a little popularity, but it's basically completely out of the realm of the average person to even consider, running. People who would otherwise be absolutely perfect.
Baron, let's go back. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's go back a little bit in time. So you're saying that what you just said was you either have to be rich or no rich people. Have all the presidents been rich or come from wealth and influence?
Yeah, probably with very, very few exceptions. I mean, is
there an exception? I'm just trying to think, and I'm not an expert on this. So I'm asking an honest question. This is not a gotcha. I'm just curious.
Yeah,
it's always been that way, isn't it?
Yeah, my sense of it is that very, very early on there were people that weren't considered like rich. Like I could be wrong, but I think like Abraham Lincoln was kind of like a upper,
that's true.
Lower high class, upper middle class ish. I think.
I don't think it. I think he was actually on the lower. He grew up. His original house, I lived by it in Yorba Linda, was a one-room cabin. And he grew up, and his bed was on the floor because the kids, and all that. So there's a good one. Outside of that, though, I don't know if modern times. My point being this, though, how hard will that be to achieve? Not that it's achievable at all right now. We're not even talking about that, but putting that in perspective, that's the way it's always been. How do we get that change?
Yeah. So the again, the idea has been around for many decades, and the short term is publicly funded elections, and I think people have all kinds of ideas about what that means that would not be appealing. But I think if it was done in such a way that all of the broadcast networks, like say online or for social media, you could do whatever you wanted to, right? Like but I would absolutely ban advertising, political advertising on any kind of public platform or outlet, and certainly on the major news networks. But the news networks are, they're our airways that they're using. So I would require, now this is, federal interference, I guess, telling people what to do. But I think certain things, like you got to stop at a red light. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. I would ban any political advertising, but all candidates would have an equal opportunity, equal time on all the broadcast networks to make their case to the American people. And they could put up their own websites, they could have their own social media, so they would have plenty of opportunity to make their case. They just could not pay to get their message across.
Oh, okay, but you said, in what you just said, you say on traditional, let's call it legacy media, on channel, CBS, NBC, all of those, Fox, CNN, all of those, right? So if you banned paying for ads on those platforms,
Political ads, yeah.
Political ads, if you ban that, then wouldn't all that money just go to folks like me or to their social media teams to make ads on? If you banned it here but didn't ban it there, then I would love that, and CBS would say hell no. I mean, is that how would you avoid that?
Yeah, I mean,
it's
again,
more complex than I know.
Sure.
I'm not trying to paint in a corner. I'm just
No.
I'm just trying to the thought all the way out.
Sure. Yeah, I'm absolutely certain that would be the first thing that people would do is how do you get around it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
of course. But again, if it's a level playing field, and if people got more used to it, I think the long-term outcome would be that more and more people would, rely on, information as opposed to having ads and talking heads, spewing talking points on all the networks. You would have set things when an election was coming around, lots of details to work out, but 6 months before an election and not before, as an example, they would start running regular, segments on news channels, no commentary, no spin, it's just somebody interviewing the same exact questions to every qualified candidate. And of course, this would bring in a lot more people. So that would also have to be worked out. When you don't need, a ton of money and influence to be able to qualify, you would still need to qualify in some sense. So that it might not change that dynamic a lot, because you still would have to get a percentage of the vote to continue up and be ultimately nominated. So there's lots of things to work out, but as a basic idea, banning political paid advertising completely, no more super PACs, none of this stuff. You could still have party, stuff to support and go knock on doors, right? Like you could still do that kind of thing, but on the airwaves, if you gave equal time to every candidate, and then it was up to the candidates to make their case.
Don't we have that?
Don't
we have that though? Don't we already have? Isn't there already? If you're giving a certain amount of airtime to this, there's a number. You have to be 2% of the population or what to be able to be on a debate stage.
Right.
2% of the vote. There's certain regulations already set up in that. Isn't there already something set up where if candidate A is given 8 minutes of airtime, then candidate B also has to be given that same equal time? Isn't that already in place of some sort?
Yeah, to a degree, but again, if the money was taken out to entice other potential leaders to actually, try to become a candidate, and having a lot of money was not the first, the first step in even considering it. I think that you would get a lot more people who were genuinely, devoted to service, and not, all the other stuff that comes with it. It's just the money, the gobs of money that are enticing people to do, things that they might not otherwise do. So it would encourage, I think it would encourage a much more representative group of people who are trying to run. And then again, if you had regular scheduled airtime on all the major networks for each candidate to make their case on a regular basis, and just maybe once a week have a thing of it.
Let me jump in, Baron. Let me jump in.
Sure.
On that, two things. On that, maybe even to the point where that'd be kind of cool. It'd be almost like a watch party kind of thing. So let's say there's 4 candidates, 2 on each side, or I don't know what, you're down to your last 2 candidates that you're going to vote for this person or that person. And when they come on, that time that's allotted to them, wouldn't it be kind of cool if it was like, okay, candidate A, here's your questions, boom, 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 and we're having a 10-minute conversation. I mean, CBS isn't going to give somebody an hour or something like that without commercial breaks, of course. But so candidate A gets their 10 minutes, these questions, okay, through your answer. Okay, maybe a comment back or something. This question, on down the road. And then, okay, we've now concluded with candidate A. And then now let's go to commercial break. And then separate candidate B comes online or into the studio, whatever, not next to each other. One show just like we do, one show right after the other. And they would have to be set up in, American citizens, dedicate the next half hour, sit in front of your TV and watch candidate A. There's these questions, and they got to be important questions that are the top reasons that people are voting. And we all know that each election time, there's, the issue of the day, whether it be, the cost of gas or the cost of food or the, school system or abortion, whatever those topics are. And then B comes on and they ask the same questions, go back and forth. And so you'd be able to watch the candidates side by side, no money involved in it. And that's kind of the thing you're talking about, right? And then go ahead and hit that. And then I want to get back to something Barbie said, and I've mentioned this to you before. What do you think about that? Any comment about that A and B candidate thing idea?
Yeah.
Something like that would be ideal.
That's pretty much right. And these are like details, but for instance, the whole debate format is just, it's devolved into, survival island, kind of things. I would not do debates until it got down to, perhaps the final candidates. And it could be, right, again, it could be more than 2.
Yeah. I just said 2 just to make the conversation. Actually,
so I wouldn't
even do candidates. I would do that idea, right? Because the candidates, what am I saying? I wouldn't even do debates. Really, I think debates are bullshit. I mean, I've got talking points, and I'm going to debate. I'm going to try and get a gotcha. That's all they work for in those debates. They're not actually debating their own topics. They are. But
here's the thing: if you had, months and months of people just being questioned, asking questions about what they believe and what they think the solution to this, that, and the other is, if you had months of that, and then you got down to the last 2, and they debate, You start throwing out talking points, you're going to look like an idiot, right? You got to just make a reasonable debate. I think it would discourage this whole, confrontational, kind of aspect because it will stick out like a sore thumb,
Well, but
maybe not.
Some of those are kind of geared. Some of those debates, depending on who's running, who's awarded the chair of the debate, those, and I'm sure you can admit to this, that there have been debates in the past that are definitely the coordinator, the person housing that debate, is definitely trying to get gotcha moments on one candidate or the other, right? I mean, we've seen that, and would you agree with that? The media.
I don't see that as being, so much the issue. It's just that the intention, the overriding intention is just to be understanding what candidate A thinks, believes, stands, and candidate B does. And anything beyond that is again going to start to occur as insincere, inauthentic, trying to go for that gotcha viral moment or whatnot. I think I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
People, let me interject this. But people, I think, on one side or the other, want that gotcha moment. And it's not as it would be so nice if everybody, we talk about a country being 50-50, and it's really not. There's actually 3 political parties. Most of the country, I'd say probably 70% of the country, is actually independent, not registered, but they're independent. Right. And I say that because you've got your hardcore, dedicated, hardcore, whatever the right word is, on each side of the probably 30%, or maybe less than that, 20% are hardcore on both sides. And then everybody else is like, yeah, okay, I get that. Or no, I don't agree with that. Or let's see how this plays out, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just as another thing to throw in the mix, I think if even if that kind of system didn't get instituted, I think it would be a smart move for if all candidates coming forward just said, I'm an independent.
That's where it should be.
They'd still get backing from one side or the other, depending on where they were leaning. They could get support from both sides occasionally, right? Like if every candidate just said, I'm an independent. I'm not part of the Democratic Party and I'm not part of the Republican Party. I'm an independent, period. Right? If everybody did that, then
that would change
the party moniker suddenly isn't so much of an influence. The same things are going to apply. As soon as somebody starts, telling you their positions on issues, you're going to know this guy leans right or he leans left or he's an extremist or he's, to this, to that. It'll be obvious, but there won't be this label hanging over everybody's head. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this. I said there was a second part to the question, staying with the elections, and we've got a number of questions about elections, so I want to stay on that thing. We may not get to 2 hours. We may not make it 2 hours. We gotta be careful here. We're well over an hour already, and we haven't even really talked about anything yet, honestly. But what's that?
We've gotten into this pretty good, I'd say.
Absolutely. And going a little deeper. When this is another one of those. When producer Barbie first said it, I'm like, as a matter of fact, it's on film on one of our first. I'm like, no, that'll never work. There's no way. And her point is this: you're talking about the system, changing the system, which needs to be changed. She talked about changing the electorate, meaning that like when you get a driver's license, you need to go take a driver's license test. And the basics. If you're coming here and we have millions of people that come to our country as guests and citizens, that come from other countries, they have to take a nationalization. Is that the right word? When they become nationalized, when they become an American citizen, they have to take, they have to know certain, the Bill of Rights, very simple history kind of test. When you vote, in order to vote, you should have like a voter ID card, meaning that you know the basics of the reason that you're voting, what you're voting for, who you're, not each election, but in general, because what people do, you talked about a moniker. They're so excited. They go and they get their I voted button. I did my civic duty, but they never once did anything but watch a commercial or just plan on voting all red or all blue. And that has always freaked her out because it's very frustrating to a lot of people every election, either side, whoever loses, because a lot of people just vote one way or the other without really voting for the person or the
ideas.
The ideas,
Yeah, the
but
issues.
also the issues. Yeah, when you get money for this, what is it called? Proposition or the proposition. They don't know and it's not each proposition that you need to learn, but you need to learn how the system, what you're doing as a voter. Like you don't learn every situation when you're getting your driver's license, but you have enough situations to where you can be safe on the road. We need to be safe in our voting because we're giving this country away. What do you think about that? About having to, I don't know how to put it in terms, in words.
Yeah. It's almost like, this is going to drive some people nuts, but kind of shifting away from, voting as a right to more of voting is a privilege, like driving, right? Nobody has the right to drive. If you want to drive, great. Anybody can do it, but you have to follow these certain rules of the road. Rules of the road. Yeah.
There you go. The rules of the road.
The same thing for voting. Now I'm a big proponent of making voting way easier as just as a practical matter. Like I don't see why in the world we can't just make voting super vote whenever you want, in your pajamas online. I'm sure
we
they
can do that now.
Voting online.
Well, you can
can't
early
vote online.
vote.
But anyway, even if you didn't take it that far, making voting much easier, more time, more opportunities, so that more people participate. But at the same time, I'm with you on this idea that it seems like you have to have like some basic, understanding of the issues before you can vote. Now, again, that's an infringement on the universal right to vote. It is.
Well, just having an ID right now is a big issue. So there's a lot of issues to even think about pushing that forward.
But I think if it was presented to people in the right way, I think a number of people would be okay with that. Like, I'm okay with having to, complete some like quick survey, and it's not like some, you don't have to be super well versed on everything, but it does seem like people should have just a basic understanding of the issues and what's happening to be able to vote. That's understandably very controversial, And you might, only the elitists are going to vote, or something like that. But I think most people would be okay with that, because the ultimate outcome is you get a more informed electorate. We should definitely abolish the electoral college. That should have gone.
Why?
That should have gone, by the way, because it was something that seemed very necessary shortly after the founding, which just doesn't make sense now. Because look, that's part of the process, right?
How does it not make sense?
Because, for instance, in the elections, you see it every election cycle. All this money and focus is on certain areas, because California, of course, is going to vote for the Democrat, and Texas, of course, is going to vote for the Republican. So all of those people and places don't get attention. They don't get much of a say. It's already a foregone conclusion, right, that somebody's going to vote that way.
So what would you say instead of?
So if you get rid of the electoral college, you don't have this focus on these, the swing states. If they go this way, they go that, right? It's just like it's a level playing field. Popular vote. Whoever gets the most votes wins, period. And there's not a concentration on this, that, or the other. I mean, there would be to a degree, but I think it would make it more fair.
Baron,
I'm done.
you got to stop. What you're doing is you're shifting. Yeah, well, yeah. You're shifting you're shifting the thing. So what people are going to say is, okay, so that means that California and New York basically are going to determine the election. The people in that, like I live in rural communities, so the popular vote's going to win. But yet most politics is local. Would you agree that the things that affect most people's lives are their local decisions, their local politicians? Yeah, the president, the senators, they do the important work that they do, but politics is more local. So what you're saying is a true democracy, and they didn't want a true democracy in the founding, because then it would just be the gang mentality, the gang, and they shift their minds all the time. That's why there is an electoral college, because it's about electing people to represent you, not the gang deciding that gay marriage is now, we don't like it, so we're going to abolish that. Versus it breaks it down to where the states, the individuals, the philosophy there is that you're doing the opposite of what you just said. Wouldn't you agree with that? I mean, would you take that into consideration?
Well, I would just approach it from this aspect. To me, it's kind of crazy that whoever wins the popular vote, whoever gets the most votes, can lose because of the electoral college. And I understand the thinking behind the electoral college and having people represent, but even that is kind of it's like anything in politics. Anything can be corrupted, right?
Yeah.
So if you have it just like whoever wins the most votes wins, period, full stop. Of course, people will try to, manipulate that and put it to their advantage and whatnot. But it would at least be another starting point. And I just can't get this past this idea that it was never the case in politics that the person that got the most votes lost the election. And it's happened twice in the last 4 or 5 cycles. That to me there's something amiss with that. It doesn't feel to me like it's representative. It doesn't solve the problems that you were referring to, But at some point, if we are the government, even if we're voting for people to represent us, then we should have the say ultimately. People need to be responsible for their own government in that sense. So if that was, more heartfelt with people out there, then I don't think you would even need an electoral college. And if people were better informed, et cetera, you had to have a basic understanding of the thing. I would trust, just like we do now, that even if the election doesn't go my way, I trust that that's what the American people wanted.
Yeah. I mean, you can go back and forth with that. In what you're saying and what I've heard, and just stepping back from it and looking at it, I just would agree to disagree in that, because I have that concern of this country taking big, huge swings through. I think what the Electoral College does is allow us to dampen, to some degree, that pendulum that we always do anyway. It swings all the way over here, and it swings all the way over there, and whereas most people live in the middle. And if the Electoral College accomplishes that alone, to me, that seems to make the most sense. On that same topic that we're talking about now, Dirk has a really good question here. I'm not sure if I totally understand it, but how he's getting to it. But can civic engagement really compete with big tech power?
Absolutely.
But this isn't a one sentence answer. Build on that. Absolutely. Meaning what?
I mean, this is what it looks like to me. I mean, there are, tens of millions of people who currently vote, and tens of millions more that could be voting.
What is it? So we have an election. We have about half, right? About 150 million people or something like that vote. Is that
eligible? Yeah. Potential voters, and then I think what actually shows up is like 40 million, something like that.
Total between.
Oh yeah, voter turnout is. I mean, as an American, I'm embarrassed by the
100%. We talked about that on the show.
By the voter turnout, and again, there are a lot of reasons why, and bad actors in the bunch, but it's ultimately up to the individual to participate, to engage, or not to engage. So anything that we can do to help engagement, I think would be have benefits for way down the road. And taking the money out of politics, I think, would be a really good way to spur more civic engagement, to kind of wrap it, back around.
Yeah. The engagement part is what makes the difference of possible or not possible there, because big tech power, you're talking about engines driving, influencing the way people think, and that's the biggest.
Yeah, but a lot of that is because of the money. It's not just that. I understand that power has power is not just about money, but a lot of it is about money. So if you remove that incentive, and there weren't, again, lobbyists. It's that same idea. All this money gets spent.
How do we get rid of lobbyists?
I don't think it would be as complicated as it might seem. Like you could have just new rules for lobbyists, and make that a more level playing field too. I think it's perfectly fine for people to advocate for their industry, or their labor group, or whatever, right? That's fine. It's just the way it's become this revolving door of, people leaving office and become lobbyists because they know the system. So it just becomes this, this self-fulfilling cycle. Yeah. And again, it's all about money. So if you could be a lobbyist, but you wouldn't be paid.
Yeah, you think that would definitely stop the whole lobbyist thing. It definitely
No. What it would do would be to get only people who are genuinely, authentically, passionately behind whatever they were trying to advocate for.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. It would change.
And
whole...
you'd get your best arguments that way.
Why don't you read what Anita wrote here?
This deserves way more views. Hey.
Anita, you are singing my praise, baby. You are
Thanks,
now,
Anita.
You are now on my love list. I agree with you. Why don't you?
I thought I was.
Well, you are, no doubt. But Anita said better words. She whispered in our ear better something. Yes, I agree. It deserves way more views. And that's what I'm looking for is watch out. So not only more views, but staying there, sitting there. So why don't you read what Adam wrote here?
Great show, great guest, great energy. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that drives me as I'm sure it does you too. I look at this stuff, I find this stuff fascinating, right? When you take out all of the, the confrontational bullshit and all of the, the agendas and all of that stuff. Look, we all want a better country that works for more people. Now, we can have gigantic disagreements about how to get there, but that's what we ultimately all want. So
let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there. So what you just said, we all want a better country. We all want the same sort of things. And I'm sure this is just the extremists, but you see, the No Kings marches, you see these different things that are out there. I talked about earlier, what's the deal with blue hair and purple hair and all that, and it's an identity thing. But what do you think about the people that talk about hating America that come here? I mean, you've seen that on social media and that kind of stuff, right? People that, the flag upside down and again, free speech. Yeah, we have that. That's beautiful. But why do you think they're in these marches? There's so much, and it's just within these marches, or maybe it's just the only time we see it. But why would people live here that hate this country and what it stands for? And is it just because they hate Trump and that's the talking points of the day, or do you think they really hate this country and what they're moving here to? And I'm talking about a lot of the. Well, not all. That's an untrue statement. But what do you think that's all about? How do you play that in your head?
It's just people venting. I don't pay that too much mind because when people are very upset about an issue or something that they perceive as an injustice or an unequal take at having the American dream, people are going to vent. It's when it gets extreme and it gets amplified, and obviously if it gets violent, now that's a real problem. But just people venting about what pisses them off, I don't see a huge problem with that to me, because if somebody's willing to go out and protest, for either side, for whatever cause, for whatever, it's not my thing. I wouldn't go out there in the streets and protest. To me, there's more, I think, constructive ways to tackle an issue. But, if they're motivated enough to go out there, they clearly want the country to be better.
Let me ask you this.
I think for the most part.
Do you think that that a lot of these, like, there's a lot, you go out and you see the signs, and it's funny how they kind of all they spontaneously happen, and then all the signs are professionally made. Do you think a lot of this is set up, or do you think there's actually
No, it's
1,000 people that want to sit and block roads or bridges because they're that passionate about it, and they're not being paid or anything? They're just that's what they're. Even though these signs and there's no. Do you think those are all? Every one of those are legit, or do you think there's something going on behind the scenes?
I think the vast majority of them are legit. Not all of the signs are professional. If you've actually like seen it.
No, I'm not saying all of them are, but you literally see them coming off trucks in pallets full of signs.
Sure. Yeah. I just want to caution you at this point, because you started referring to the protesters as they.
I'm talking about the protesters.
I know, but protesters are individuals. Some people are out there for childcare. Some people are out there because they're pissed about immigration. Some people are out there because they want, individuals are individuals. If there is some assistance in expanding those things, I don't see that as a problem if the vast majority of people who are protesting are doing it because they genuinely are concerned about the direction of the country.
And you're saying that the vast majority of the people at any one given protest are legit, that they're there for a reason, for their reason, whatever that reason is.
Yes, of course. Remember, we're starting off with 50% of the country doesn't like the way the country's going, and 50% does, right? So you're starting with that right off the bat. So to me, it's not. I just wouldn't be suspect about the authenticity of the people out there protesting. I could be wrong. Maybe there's some protester cabal, happening behind the scenes, and they're, pumping all these people out there. But I don't know. I've seen enough stuff that, time after time, people are going, I've never protested in my life, but now I'm concerned enough to come out and protest. And, and I think protest is a wonderful thing. Again, as long as it's peaceful, I wouldn't do it.
Do you think Antifa is real?
What?
Do you think Antifa is real in our country? Or do you think that the accusations of a lot of these people being from an Antifa type organization, do you think that's real or not?
Yeah, I think Antifa.
I'm just trying to see where your thoughts are.
Okay, yeah. I mean, right? I mean, Antifa is against fascism. Now, have they gotten too extreme? Maybe, but that's
maybe.
Yeah. But anyway, that's what their thing is, right? And I think it's the influence of Antifa is just like way overblown. That's just my opinion.
So you don't think it's as big of an influence within the organizing of different pop-up protests?
I don't think so. Again, like I said, I think it's genuinely people are upset and concerned about the direction that the country's going. And that's been true for any protest throughout, American history.
Yeah, no doubt. But the feel of them, of the protests throughout American history, just feels different than maybe being about a certain administration.
Yeah,
versus,
I don't see that.
For instance, we talked about wars and so forth, and the issue of what's going on with Iran right now, and how people are calling this a debacle and this and that. Being 60 days into a war when Vietnam was, and speaking of protest, when Vietnam was years and World War II and World War One. But there was a different, even when the Bush, when they went and attacked, different leaders, and Obama attacking Iran before, it just feels like there's more happening, Iraq, I'm sorry, more happening in the world today, that if this was a different administration and the same thing was happening, it would be totally differently viewed by the media. Not necessarily by the individual. Again, we're half and half of the country. Actually, we're a third. There's more independence if you really think about how people, like I had to re-register. I register as an independent, but I had to re-register as a Republican because of the primaries, you can't vote, right? So I had to do that. So I'm going to switch back. But I think most people, no matter what they're registered at, like you talked about, we're a 50-50 country. Well, we're more like a 15% country or something like that, 25% country. And then they swing one way or the other according to the influence of what they know and understand, which is often, and I know you disagree with this, but often pushed by the narratives are pushed by one outlet or another, depending on what that outlet is buddied up to. Let's change that a little bit though. Is AI making society? I had this argument with B, not argument, but a discussion with B the other day, because we use AI in doing some rewriting of stuff. So I write my column, but then when we go back and we rewrite stuff to go into, like this show was going to be rewritten. We use a lot of AI in that. And he's totally against AI. He's totally against billionaires, redistribution of wealth. He's totally into that. He's very, very socialistic. And by the way, this country is already very socialistic. I mean, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, on and on, SNAP programs. We have a lot of 50% of our budget goes towards social programs, the country's budget. I think the military is like 25 or 30% of the budget. Social programs are 50% of the budget. So we're already a socialistic country, but his views are very similar to yours in a lot of those areas. But when it comes to AI, he talked about it doesn't, you don't think when you use AI. Well, how would you answer Danny here? Is AI making society smarter or more dependent?
Yeah.
Notice he didn't say dumber. He said, or more dependent. I like that little twist he put there.
Yeah. I feel about that similar to what I feel about the discussions we've had about the media influencing people.
Yes.
And I don't know. I think if you really want to affect change in the country, you need to be responsible for your own research because again, if I see things on the left-leaning news all the time that I just roll my eyes at, because it's like there's certain things I agree with and the opposite. So the same thing with the AI. Like, again, there is potential to have bad effects if individuals just throw up their hands and go, I don't want to think anymore. I just want to have AI answer all of my questions for me. I just don't see that happening widespread. It will certainly happen in pockets because people believe what they want to believe. Like this whole issue about, people not even believing facts anymore, right? Because they think it's influenced or it's leaning this way or it's leaning that way. And it's like, facts are still facts. Interpretations can differ, but facts are still facts. So I look at AI the same way, that if you're going to use it If you're going to use it just to
Can you not hear me?
reinforce your own mindset, then of course it's not a good thing.
What is a woman?
Huh?
What is a woman?
I don't understand the question.
Define a woman. How would you describe a woman?
One of two genders in the human species.
I just thought of that when you said people ignore facts today. I mean, and that gets into the influence of the media.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where you're going, but there are variations on the species. Would you admit that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's when you say variations, there's oddities. There's things that happen to cells, and as far as the human species, there are oddities but there are two sexes, right? But my only point in where I was going with that is I could not agree with you more that I think people believe what they want to believe, but they're also influenced to believe what they want to believe. In other words, they have to be influenced in order to take on that belief. You know, I talk about ideology. Politics is an idea, and when people it becomes their ideology, then that's a very dangerous place to be, because now if you have a disagreement, it becomes a personal attack, and you have to defend yourself, right? So that's the whole human species is very complex, but I think that social media and media in general has a lot more, is specifically designed now to have a lot more influence over people that don't want to necessarily think or do their own research, and they can very easily become influenced in one direction or the other, right?
Yeah. So if people, if people became a little more discerning and a little better informed, and kept their intention on, trying to get the other side of an issue instead of just, venting whatever their feelings are, there's nothing wrong with that, then these things would never have influence on you, right?
Yeah, they wouldn't, but they do. I mean, they do in today's world.
I think where it really starts is in the household, right? Growing up, who influences you more than your parents or your close friends or the people you consider to be mentors? Who has more influence than that?
It should be that way. I don't know that that's as much the case. We've been around for many generations. There's a younger generation that's coming up that I think has, influenced by what's sitting in their hand, as much as their friends. And I mean, we talk a lot about, we have talked a lot about this on the Insights and Straight Talk with Emma Lynn and Grandpa Rod, the show we do on Saturdays. We've taken a break because she's started a new school and so forth. But we were both shocked that friends have almost as much influence as parents do in today's world. And the social media that people live in the world that they live in today is gaining much more influence and than even parents. And it's got into all sorts of things, and in where the school systems weren't allowing parents. There's a lot of attempts to break that down, and now we're getting into the conspiracy theories, the behind the curtain, other governmental influence. There's a lot of influences today that AI is part of, that we've talked about, and the technologies and the way society is being driven, to where it seems that family you talked about, where you get the most influence from, it's becoming less and less and less the actual family unit. We need to get back to that in order to straighten the ship, and I'm gonna lead that right into what Clive asked here. And I think this is a fascinating question. I never expected this one to be asked, but it's interesting. Could local communities have more power than national systems someday? It's interesting.
Yeah.
Some
I
real
think
concern in that
I
question.
think they absolutely could because again,
How? Why? How?
numbers, sheer numbers.
Okay, so you're saying, in what you're saying local communities coming together. The great American middle class has girth, and it has the ability to become the influence, period. Because there's only so many national systems, but when you have 300 million people, I mean, basically the great middle class, right? I mean, there's how many people in this country? 330 million, something like that now, or 350 million?
More than 350 now, I think.
Let's say it's 350.
350-ish. Yeah.
I'd say at least 325 of that qualifies in the great middle class, right? I mean, you're not an elite, that 1%. And, technically even the people under the poverty line are in the great middle class, the lower middle class. So, but is that what you mean by what you just said? Numbers?
Yeah. It's just the sheer numbers. The problem is always how to organize that raw power to determine what our elected leaders actually pull off once they get into office. If there was a more or less countrywide demand that we get the money out of politics, you watch how fast something like publicly funded elections could actually happen as a for instance. But I think one thing that gets forgotten in a lot of this talk about how do we fix this, that, and the other system is we just need to do a better job at influencing and encouraging people to be responsible. And that's
What does that
very
look
difficult
like?
to do.
What does that look like? Encouraging or influencing people to be more responsible.
Yeah,
What does that
well,
look like?
Yeah, one thing, and this is what I've always loved about what you're trying to do is encouraging curiosity and having discussions and finding out more about what other people think and what are their solutions and what could be the bridge that makes it all happen. Because I think the vast majority of people would agree that we all want basically the same thing. We want the same outcomes. We want, healthier, happier children. We want, everybody to have jobs that are fulfilling to them. We want them to be taken care of, right?
Yeah.
This is basic. This is very basic.
That's the 70%. I mean, we've talked about this before. If you're my neighbor, I don't care if you're black, if you're a single mom, if you're a single dad, if you're Hispanic, if you're white, Polish, whatever.
What about if you have long hair?
If you have long hair, I'm getting there.
See, look
at it. It's actually.
You still, you still support and listen to people who have long hair?
Yeah, absolutely. I used to have in high school. I used to be out. It was curly hair, so I'd pull it down and I would be able to have my bangs touch my lips. That was back in high school. But yeah, I'm growing my hair long and then I'm gonna shave it all off. So I'll be a hippie and then a skinhead. That's my nature, right? That's the complexity of raw. So are people truly disconnected from this came up when we were talking about this before. You were saying,
Great question.
are they disconnected from politics or just exhausted? And that's kind of one causes the other, right?
Exactly. The exhaustion comes from trying to be connected and not having many outlets for that. So that's the thing again about what you're doing, encouraging people with different mindsets and worldviews to talk it out and come to solutions. Again, like what everybody says they want Congress to do, right? How come Congress can't just get along and get stuff done, right? I mean, that's like the number one knock on the current state of our politics is that we can't get anything done because everybody's digging into their side, right?
It's been that way for a long time. That's not.
Yeah, but
during the Bush administration, during the Obama administration, it's always been that way.
But I think you would agree it's gotten dramatically worse over the last 20 years for sure, right?
If you're saying over the last 20 years, 100,000%. In the old days, during even as recently as Reagan, Tip O'Neill days.
That was 40 years ago.
So they would battle. They would battle, for the idea, and then they'd go have dinner and a beer after the legislation session was over. Before that, and probably after Reagan, like you said, that was 40 years ago. Oh my God, I am old. If you go back before that, it was a different system. The same system but different approach. Now it's all about power on both sides. It's all about
money and power,
structuring. It's all about the posturing. It's all about how to line your own pockets, and now it's more about the party than it is about the people, and that sucks. That really does suck. I have one more question, then a couple of comments, and we'll wrap this puppy up. You good with that, or did we? Because we had about 2 hours.
Yeah, we're not going to have time to get into the other subtopic, but we'll do that on another show.
Call that topic out right now.
I'm recommending an expansion of the luxury tax as to abolish the IRS and at the same time still have people with means putting their fair share back into the country that helped them get so well off.
We got a couple of funny comments here. Yeah, I agree. And I don't agree. I'm really curious because you're talking about a sales tax and
which doesn't
income tax
would have to really be tweaked. So I thought about it more, and there's a lot of issues with that and a lot of things that I don't think it would be very difficult to work. So anyway, it's just kind of my alteration of a national sales tax.
Yeah, no, I get that. So let me ask you this last question and then a few comments, unless something pops up in the next couple of minutes while we're wrapping this part up. So Jason here, what role should AI have in decision making? I like this. This is interesting. Or should it have a role in decision making? Because let's face it, AI is not, I think you and I talked about this, where people will push back and even are starting to push back against AI. And so what do you think about Jason's comment or question?
Again, if people are responsible about it and have a genuine interest in furthering something as opposed to just reinforcing their own notion of things, then AI is a wonderful tool. Because it's just a tool. It can be used for very deleterious things, but it's just a tool. Yeah. So it's the person who uses the tool that is the one that what's the intention? Are you right? So it can be very valuable in decision making just because you can gather information in a very quick fashion. So
you just said it. You just said it right there. It's extremely important in decision making because it is the best database you'll ever have. That's what AI is. It's a database. And what's interesting,
flawed, but yeah, still.
yeah, well, it's basically anything made by man is to a degree flawed. I mean, nothing's perfect. We are not perfect beings, right? So yeah, it's definitely flawed. Again, according to the user, is where that is. But what it does do to me, and back to B, he talked about how it makes you not think. And I think it's the actual opposite. Yeah, it's the opposite. To me, my thinking has been expanded because, I never thought about that. Now let me build up on that. And so now I'm doing more thinking than I ever have, plus being a lot more efficient at it. So I'm a big fan of the direction AI is going and concerned at the same time because there's evil in the world. And that's not going to change because it's the world. It's not heaven and it's not hell, where there's all evil, where there's no evil. We're in that middle. We're in the earth, and it's that constant within each one of us. I have demons. I fight demons, and I'm a pretty good guy. So it's it's how it's functioned, right? You're not. Don't even try and take any credit. All right, let's go to Clive. Would you read these next three and then give your closing, what you want to leave everybody with? If you want to play the clip one more time, we can do that as well. Why don't you read what's written here?
All right, Clive. Appreciate everyone sharing different viewpoints respectfully.
Starting to work, brother.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's a big
I'm
deal.
glad. I'm heartened that is appreciated, because I think that's another universal feeling for the vast majority of people is that's what they want.
Yeah, vast majority.
Do unto others. I mean, it doesn't get more basic than that, right? Do unto others.
There's a very thin sliver that has all the voice, that makes all the noise, gets all the attention. But like you said, everybody else really want that. I want a better nature. I want a more perfect union. And you want a more perfect union. And the guy sitting next to you and the girl sitting on the other side of it, they want a more perfect union.
Yeah.
Everybody wants that. Few people don't.
And I think the fastest way to realize that is to stop paying attention to the bomb throwers.
Yeah.
Right? Either side. Don't get so upset when the bomb thrower on your side does something versus the bomb thrower on the other side. Just stop reacting to it. Stop getting pissed about it. Just move on. Go, okay, well, that's an extreme position. I'm going to pay attention to the people who are actually trying to reach consensus. If more and more and more of that happened,
I think we're starting to get there.
Yeah.
And two of my favorite actors are black. And I only say that because I'm going blank on their name. Who's the guy that amazing movies? Who are the two most famous black actors that you know that have been around for a while?
Well, I'm talking like back to Sidney Poitier.
No, too far back. But
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman and he did. Oh God,
Denzel Washington.
Denzel Washington nailed it. Those two, they both recently have been asked and have said, how to get rid of racism? Stop fucking talking about it.
Yes.
Same thing you're saying right there, and it's so true. And most people want that. Why don't you read what Nick has to say? Oh, hi Nick. Oh, very handsome. He's decked out. Must be
looking spry.
Looking
okay,
good.
You can tell this conversation genuinely matters to the host. Oh, thanks for picking up on that.
Hosts.
Did I not say that right?
You said host.
Yeah. I think both. Yeah, and that is true.
It is very, very much so.
Yeah.
All right. This one I thought was funny. This one I thought was funny. June Sunday. Read that out loud.
AI will destroy stupid humanity. Rightly so. Stupid humanity deserve it.
That's an interesting.
I
That's the way
appreciate
to,
the
that's the way
sentiment,
to end
June,
the show.
but have some hope for humanity because if we can make it happen, then hopefully you'll change your mind and you'll have a different.
Well, you know what? I'll actually step up with June here because he or she, I assume it's, I don't know. He or she says AI will destroy stupid humanity. Rightly so. Stupid humanity deserves it. Didn't say humanity, but there is stupid humanity in the world.
Yeah, kind of comes with the territory, but
Yeah, it
I
does.
see
You
what you're
can't
saying.
really destroy all of stupid humanity because then there'd be other stupid humanity. It wouldn't go away.
Without stupid humanity, you wouldn't have enlightened humanity.
Yeah. Without losses, you don't understand what a win is, right? Same thing.
It takes all
What do
kinds.
you, what do you want to leave this wonderful crowd with? I'm gonna jump off stage here for a second. Why don't you give a closing comment statement? We will definitely, as you alluded to, definitely be doing other shows, more of a series. We're gonna want to get into other subjects like your quirky advice kind of. I think a show on those, just on those things, would be fun to do. We'd have to stage that out. We'd have to picture book it, because we'd have to, like, okay, this comment and then build on that, and then this comment and then, observations, interesting observations that we can both, poke holes at, and that would be fun. So why don't you leave your 1,000 fans here? Why don't you leave them with a closing comment, and I'll come back and join you in a second.
Oh, okay. Closing comment. Well, I just hope that people continue to seek out discussions like the ones Rod's having, and just, again, not get so triggered by those things. And that goes for me too. I get triggered all the time by the things that stupid humanity does. But I'm trying to be more aware of not just, reacting to it like I always do, and just kind of see it for what it is. This is just, one idea or one opinion about something, and it's not going to change my core beliefs, no matter how many times it's screamed at me. And so I hope people take that away to start being a little more conscious of how you're interacting with the things you disagree with.
All right, brother. Give everybody a big wave, and I'll wrap this up and come meet you in the green room.
All right, man. Yeah, good talk, man.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
It was awesome. All right, brothers. Brothers and sisters, let's land this thing right now, all right? Because this conversation, this is exactly why we do this. You just watch something that most platforms won't touch, right? Real disagreement, real tension. Wanted to get into a little bit more. We didn't have enough time. But if you'll notice in my working with Baron on some of these topics over the last couple of months, let's say, I'm really leaning more and more into the message of be curious, because it's that curiosity. I could have shut Baron down, years ago, as he could have shut me down. But the curiosity of what that point that you're making stands for and why is something that's got me to get pissed off at Baron, you asshole. I saw a smile in there. Because it's interesting how things that you've thought your whole life can really get you thinking, real thinking happening in real time. And that's, and here's what matters about that. Not that Baron and I agree on everything, but that we're willing to sit here. And that's made me a better person. And we work through it when we're sitting here, because that's what's missing right now in the world. It's not information. It's not opinions. It's engagement. Engagement is missing. And if you take nothing else from today, take this. The future isn't going to be made by the loudest voices. It's going to be shaped by the people who actually show up. So here's my first. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe at Rod Duff 1939. That's not how old I am, by the way. And not just for this episode. Don't do it just for this episode, but because this is an ongoing conversation. And if you watch one, you're only getting a piece of it. Half of it's missing. You need to watch a few. You need to start feeling the rhythm, understand, so you can understand what we're building here. And then second, head over to Substack, Inside Straight Talk, Substack.com. That's where we take these conversations much deeper. That's where the Friday mic drop hits. That's where the written word carries this forward through Barbieisms on Mondays. I just mentioned Friday mic drop, and then poems and pages on Wednesdays. That's the soul. That's personally my favorite topic. Typically, the topic is discussed in a very poetic way. So the written word carries this message forward. And then third, this is the big one. Start your own watch party. I'm serious about this. Start your own watch party. You don't need a studio. You don't need any kind of a platform. Sit down with a few people. Pull up an episode. Pull up this episode. Talk. Push at each other. Challenge ideas. Find where you agree and where you don't. Because that right there, that's how this scales. Not from the top down, but from the ground up. And if we do that, folks, if more people step back in, if more people engage instead of just scroll, then everything we talked about today, AI, politics, systems, they don't control the outcome. Those things don't control the outcome. You know who does? People do. That's the mission. That's this movement. That's Insights and Straight Talk. I'm Rod Duff. That's producer Barbie somewhere out there in the atmosphere. And we'll see you on the next one. And like I like to say at this point,
before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here and we appreciate all your support.
and with that, producer Barbie and I are out.